Walk into almost any Christian bookstore, and you will see Jeremiah 29:11 printed on coffee mugs, graduation cards, t-shirts, and canvas wall art. It is one of the most recognized and repeated verses in all of Scripture. We usually read the words, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans for welfare and not for evil," as a divine guarantee for our immediate circumstances. We quote it expecting a successful surgery, a sudden job promotion, or a quick financial turnaround when life feels uncertain. But what happens when that expected reality doesn't materialize? When the job is lost, the medical diagnosis offers no cure, or the heartbreak remains? When life collapses, reading a verse about God's good plans can feel like holding a broken promise. That tension exists because modern culture has stripped these words of their original, brutal context. Divorcing this promise from the terrified people who actually received it turns a profound historical mandate for survival into a fragile, self-help cliché, and clichés cannot withstand true hardship. To understand the promise, you have to look at the catastrophe. Jerusalem had fallen, families were separated, homes were destroyed, and the surviving Israelites were forced to march hundreds of miles away from everything they knew, their city crumbling into ash behind them. They woke up in Babylon, a hostile foreign empire. They were stripped of their homeland with no warning and no chance for an appeal. Trapped in captivity, the exiles were left asking if God had forgotten them, fearing that their nation's story had come to an abrupt end. This diagram illustrates the two competing timelines circulating through the exile camp. False prophets were telling the Israelites to keep their bags packed because the rescue would only take 2 years. Then, Jeremiah sends a letter with God's actual timeline. They were going to be in Babylon for 70 years. The math is brutal. Most people listening would die of old age before they ever saw Jerusalem again. This is the moment God declares, "For I know the plans I have for you." The Bible's most famous promise of hope and welfare was delivered directly into a scenario of total and generational disappointment. Instead of offering an escape route, God's instructions were counterintuitive. He told them to unpack. He commanded them to build houses, to plant gardens, to get married, and work for the peace and prosperity of their captors in Babylon. We tend to define a good plan as one that avoids pain and maximizes our personal comfort. God is after something different. He uses periods of intense hardship and waiting to refine character, forging an endurance and Christlikeness that comfort cannot produce. Think about how bamboo grows. For years, you see nothing above the soil. But underground, an expansive root system is spreading and strengthening. Then, suddenly, it shoots rapidly upward. God often develops deep roots in the dark before he produces visible growth on the surface. These extended periods of waiting are not punishments, they are necessary preparations. God is looking at a finished masterpiece, even when we are staring at what looks like a pile of scattered, confusing pieces of hardship. The Babylonian exile reflects a pattern of displacement that started long before Jerusalem fell. The Israelites were physically removed from the city where God's presence dwelt, a physical separation that mirrors the spiritual distance between a broken humanity and its creator. Jeremiah's promise points past the 70 years in Babylon straight to Jesus. Jesus willingly entered into this state of exile. He lived in the brokenness and faced the judgment of that separation, taking the weight of our exile upon himself. Bringing Israel back to a physical city was a localized restoration. Through his resurrection, Jesus opened a way back to God that transcends geography, offering a permanent homecoming for anyone in any nation. Biblical hope is a confident expectation of how the story ends. It allows us to believe God has the final word, even when the current chapter is defined by cancer, failure, or loss. You will likely find yourself in your own personal Babylon, facing deep grief, a difficult diagnosis, or a closed door. When you do, the call is to actively build, serve, and live faithfully right where you are, rather than waiting passively for an escape. This diagram illustrates how that security works. Imagine a child walking across a suspension bridge. If she merely holds her father's hand, the thin line of human effort, she is vulnerable. But if her father grips her hand, she is locked in by a massive, unyielding shape of protection. There is a vital difference here. If our security relies on our ability to perfectly grip God's plan, we will eventually let go out of fear. When God maintains the grip, we remain secure regardless of the surrounding circumstances. When life disappoints you and the roadmap makes no sense, do not quit. Keep praying. Keep planting gardens in Babylon. Trust that God sees doors you cannot see. Our future is filled with hope because Christ is faithful, even when the present is difficult. The God writing your story will never let you go.